Okay, hey there. This is your homegrown Moonlight Mystic, and in this video, we're talking about finding the balance of truth. I did a little post on my Facebook page, which is Rainbow Shamans, and I just wanted to read it to you because I'd written it all out, and then I can and then we can go into a bit of discussion about that. But what I wanted to say first is that we have lived under um, a perspective of truth being something, a thing, as opposed to an energy. We're given this model by the systems of control that we are exposed to in our societal structure that lead us to believe that truth is something that they exclusively hold, and because they are the authority on the matter, that they broadcast that truth out into the collective mind. So we begin to take on these truths that are commonly accepted amongst us. And this model of truth becomes our own reflection in how we engage with one another. So we are, when we are in a disagreement with somebody about who has the truth, as if it's some physical thing, we sort of engage in this whole mentality that is presupposing that we that in order to be right, in order to be the authority on the matter, that we need to hold our ground, that we can't allow the other person to have their perspective, because to do that is to discredit our own truth. The reality is this is a distorted uh, way of approaching truth that has been commonly accepted amongst us as people, and it creates a lot of problems because no one wants to be wrong, no one wants to be inferior, no one wants to lose, no one wants to um, you know to take the weaker position. And so what this does is it creates a lot of ego, it creates a lot of struggle, power struggles, and this is where ego has come from, is because it comes from this place of wanting to hold have the upper hand, so to speak. And I just wanted to give a different perspective on how truth can become more balanced when we approach truth in a way that is more balanced. Then we can begin to find that balance within us and allow for the other person to find their balance, that we're moving now into more energy of finding balance within this world. That's why it's so chaotic at the moment, is because sometimes old structures need to deconstruct and fall away so that we can rebuild structures that are more balanced and more even and more equal. You can't have someone having all the power and the others having no power, because eventually that's going to topple over. It's not balanced, right? And that's the principle of what we're going through right now, is that there's a lot of imbalance within us, and there's a lot of imbalance within our world, and that balance, that scale needs to be readdressed. So I'm going to just read now for you what I wrote about truth, and hopefully you find this helpful. So, finding truth in today's world can feel overwhelming, especially when there is an increase in corruption, con artists, and the hidden agendas of our societal structure. It's time to get back to the foundation of truth. This is found in the organic structure of our own design, our intuition, and our spirit. Truth is known and felt within the heart space. It arises from a deep conviction that is in alignment with our values. Truth has within it the power to set us free, because I just need to open it more. A little pause here. It's loading so I can read the whole thing. Truth has within it the power to set us free, because it can provide the framework of personal and professional boundaries that are going to allow for us to live in its power. It's become very difficult for mankind to find our own truth. This is because we as a collective species have grown up in a system that tells us what to believe. We have all grown up in a system that enforces this compliance to a controlled truth rather than a creative exploration of it. This causes us to become conditioned by truths that, in all honesty, do not hold any true meaning or value for us as people. When the truth that has become common is challenged and tested by its ability to resonate with the human heart, what we are doing is we are actually testing the spirits. When we discover that the root cause of the imbalance of soul energy is a result of the lies that we accept and the lies that we tell ourselves, we can actually begin to find truth. We adopt all kinds of truths that are really just projections. We adopt these in order to feel safe, to fit in, and to feel accepted. This is not the kind of truth that will set us free. When we begin to leave old paradigms of truth, we are literally leaving old paradigms of reality. This is why truth is actually a human right that must arise out of the soul of the individuals, so that we as a collective may move into the common paradigm, that reality, that truth, and truth that comes from the heart and is created out of self-honesty and empowerment. No one should have the right to control another's truth. Conflict arises when we perceive that truth has only one expression. We experience this need to control when we perceive that another person's truth is going to be a threat to our own paradigm. The need to control and defend the position of our own perspective is an illusion of the ego. This mental and emotional power struggle that we enter into in order to prove who has the truth is coming from a place of fear that separates us. The mental construction of separation consciousness is what we rely on. Concepts that color our world into two tones: right, wrong, winner, loser, good, bad, superior, inferior. This is a system-based theology that comes from the knowledge of good and evil, the tree that we've been warned not to eat from. Truth is an expression of soul, and we have all come into our own unique expression because we have all been subjected to the controlled truths of the system. We therefore subscribe to the illusion that truth is something we must prove as owning exclusively. This mind has corrupted the principle of organic truth. The reality is that there are many truths and perspectives, and each one, like a thread in a tapestry, can fuse together to create a common expression of beauty and creation. The reality is that truth was created to unite us, not to divide us. Another's truth is the opportunity that we have to encounter their soul expression. I'll just move this up a little bit. And find my place again, as we all must do. The reality is that truth was created to unite us, not divide us. Another's truth is the opportunity we have to encounter their soul expression. We can choose to accept or deny their truth. Accepting someone else's truth does not mean that you have to discredit your own. It means that you have just taken one step closer towards their heart. Two truths are better than one, for in the fusion of two different perspectives, a whole new perspective has the potential to be born. This is the divine design of truth because it is living, moving, rather than rigid and dogmatic. Authentic truth is an energy that requires expansive expression to be constructed and deconstructed, to evolve, to find greater meaning and understanding. Truth is what happens along the journey that we share with one another. When we allow ourselves to become open to greater levels of understanding, consciousness, and energy, through the sharing of truth, we allow ourselves to reunite. Yes. We as the collective have the ability to navigate and build a new world of peace, of freedom, through the sharing of truth. Okay? This is how powerful truth is for us as human beings. It can be constrained and limited to what we are told, or it can arise from the realm of what is felt within the heart. Okay, and giving that respect, having that mutual understanding and respect of one another is what needs to happen. That is the balancing of truth. When we come out from under the shadow of corrupted truth, the corrupted truth that holds men's hearts captive to fear and to division. And when we step into the empowerment as spiritual leaders on the earth, then we will find our highest truth. This is the truth that will connect us all together as one people and allow for the great awakening of our own glory. This is the truth of the true governance, the true freedom, the true collective heart that is about to manifest on the earth. So I really believe that we are taking this time as a collective of humanity to rebalance what we believe about our world, about ourselves, because there's a shift, there's a movement. This time in history that we live in is like no other time in history. We are nearing towards the unfoldment of greater darkness and greater light at the same time. And each of us has within us autonomy. We have the ability to choose whether we want to go into greater darkness or whether we want to go into greater light. However, in order to go into greater light, if we are wanting to enter into more of our organic light, our substance, our truth that arises from the heart space, that arises from the soul energy, the spirit connection from which we were created, if we want to come into more of that, then we actually need to come out of the shadows. We need to come out of the shadows of the lies that we've been telling ourselves and of the lies that we've been accepting from other people. And I am sort of talking about, when there's relationships, and it could be either the male or the female, it doesn't really matter. But if one's cheating and the other one knows intuitively within the spirit, within the heart, that that's going on, right? And they keep lying to themselves, okay, and they keep lying to the other person in terms of the way that they're turning up, that's not a balanced energy of truth, right? We've lived under this pretense, under this mask, under this keeping everything controlled. And things about to get messy because we need to actually shift through those shifting shadows and allow ourselves to come into that more glorious light of who we really are. And we can't come into that energy and into that consciousness and into that glory of who we truly are unless we're willing to actually come out from under the shadows of the system. I'm not just talking about the government system. I'm talking about the systems of control that we've developed within our own consciousness of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, that we compartmentalize our being and only show parts of ourselves that are acceptable, and we hide away the parts that we don't feel are acceptable. And this is imbalanced. This causes pain, this causes suffering, this causes all kinds of issues in relationships, because we're not coming forward in an honest and empowered way in connection to our truth. And that we actually need to sift through, as it were, all the things in our lives. When we come to the end of our life, we're presented with this confronting reality of did I actually live my life? Did I live it in honor of who I am? Well, the reality is that oftentimes we don't. Oftentimes we live our lives in the reality of what everyone else thinks we should be, or what everyone else thinks we are. Okay, and we take on these distorted personifications of self-image that are false. And if we want to come into more freedom, we need to be able to balance the truth of the heart space. We need to be able to break off those shackles that are causing us to be restricted and unable to find true freedom, because it says, it's a biblical statement. You shall know the truth, and that truth sets you free. If you are subscribed to a truth in your life, or a belief about who you are or how the world is or whatever, and it's not setting you free, then really it's not true. And I know that sounds really simple, but we actually need to begin to start re-identifying ourselves, start reassociating to the things in life that give us meaning, true purpose, finding that alignment with the people that have the same heart space, the same consciousness, the same one mind, one heart, one collective energy. That's what Bob Marley was talking about when he was writing these songs of redemption, coming into the balanced energy of truth, of expression, of freedom. And so I guess I'm gonna leave it there. I just wanted to I do have the book here. Perfect. So I pulled a card a while back, and it was called Be True, Stay True, and Be in Your Power. So I'm going to read that. It's page 165. And then we'll wrap this baby up and send it out. You are a sovereign divine being with spiritual authority and freedom within you. You do not need permission from anyone to be who you are and live your life as you choose. This is your divine birthright, guarded as the precious treasure that it is. And remember that you are a divine being. So, there is no permission required from anyone apart from yourself to be and live your truth. There are many voices that will test you on the journey from illusory shackles of fear, loss, or abandonment that may hold you back or tempt you into giving your power away to others. You shall awaken from the testing into the realization of spiritual independence within. Of course, there is more to spiritual authority than just recognizing that which lies within you. There are times when you must act on it, guard it, protect it, which means recognizing when others seek to exert influence over you in their own reasons, or when you are being manipulated out of your own authority, becoming blind to your own power of choice, and instead believing that things just are that they that the way that they are, you cannot question or query it. Sometimes during such challenges, to wield the crook and the flail is to exert one's own spiritual authority, which requires that you stand your ground and remain true to your knowing, your intuition, your spirit. Sometimes during such, I've just read that. This is not about achieving a certain outcome or attempting to control something or someone, okay? That's system based. Or even forcing things to be as you wish they could be, okay? That's control. Standing your ground means always telling yourself the truth, not selling out or giving away something that has genuine spiritual truth and meaning for you. It is not about making another see things the same way. It is about honoring your own truth. And if your truth is wise enough to include compassion, then honoring the other, even when the other disagrees with you or seeks to harm you out of their own fear. You do not have to challenge another in order to honor your truths and inner authority. If you feel that another has to agree with you in order for your authority to be intact, then it isn't genuine inner authority at all. Okay, it's coming from a place of fear, it's coming from a place of ego, it's coming from a place of the need to control. And that comes from the system. So, if we don't want to live under the system, this is actually the spiritual work that we need to do. It comes down to our inner heart and our inner consciousness and finding the way forward. There's a whole world in there. There's a whole kingdom in there to be reclaimed. The fact that you don't need to have the agreement of others in order to live an empowered life can be a liberating realization. I'm going to read this 3 times. The fact that you don't need to have the agreement of others in order to live an empowered life can be a liberating realization. Again, the fact that you do not need to have the agreement of others in order to live an empowered life can be a liberating realization. This is coming out of the shadow of the system. This is coming out of the mental construct of consciousness, of the governing mind. Okay? There are times when life can feel like an assault against your truth, with many challenging you. For those souls who have come to master spiritual authority this lifetime, there is a test to remain true without becoming dogmatic, to honor what you know is true without minimizing, judging, dismissing the truths of another that are different to yours, but just as true for them. You have the power to create and own your reality, and you don't need permission from anyone else to do this. Honor your spiritual sovereignty. And yeah, I'm just going to leave it there as led. I call back my power, full and complete. I break all vows of giving away my authority. I release the lie that my authority may be taken from me. I surrender only to the light of my own divine essence. I now declare with intention clear, I am a sovereign being of love divine. And when we move into this energy and into this consciousness of bringing together all the different perspectives from all different nations, tribes, tongues, all peoples, that from that connection of pulling the threads through, we can create a beautiful tapestry. We can see the bigger picture. We can see the vision of our future. And that we individually have this responsibility to move into that balanced truth. Doesn't matter what anyone else ascribes to or what you feel pressured by others to believe or have as your truth. It doesn't, those things must be deconstructed, because when if we are, that's living under the spirit of control. Okay, that's a controlling dark spirit. But when we can actually have the freedom and the liberty and the empowerment to begin to build boundaries and frameworks around the truth that we come into alignment with, that it resonates and that it is part of our being, that our lives become an extension of our truth and our being, then we can begin to move into this freedom. Yeah. Oh, and you know what? It's not easy. It's not easy at all. We have to really begin to center. And this is a great opportunity when we're in quarantine to really center, to really find our truth, to really find that expression that we can move into that energy. We all have a choice of what energy that we're going to turn up as on the earth. That energy is governed by our truth. Okay, and we can't be always pointing at the government, blaming the government, and it's this person, it's that person, we have to come out of that childishness, and we need to come into, it says in that biblical affirmation, we spoke as a child, we acted like a child, but we need to put those childish things away now. Okay, sometimes when things happen that are catastrophic, like what we're going through, so we can grow up, so we can own our truth, so we can push aside fear of of finding our own expression, our own light. We don't have to be subjected to everything that's coming in, all incoming calls that just overwhelm our system and cause us to be in fear. That we can actually begin to move out into deeper waters, out into deeper waters of that spiritual knowing and understanding of who we are, reconnecting in that heart space to that attachment that we have to one another. Because at the end of the day, this craziness of we'd rather be right than be in relationship, that's madness. Because we know at a heart level, all of us, that at the bottom of our heart, at the end of the day, we want to be in connection. We need connection. That is a primary emotional need, to feel connected in. And when we engage in this ridiculous madness of squabbling over who's right, who's wrong, who's the winner, who's the loser, who's inferior, who's superior, who's in, who's out, who gives a shit? Let that stuff go, because it's a distraction, it's a smokescreen, and we need to do away with that stuff. We need to come into more empowerment of ourselves, spiritual maturity, and finding the way forward in terms of expressing that heart truth as an extension of the manifestation of our life force energy. Because when we get into that, when we come out of fear and we get into love, um, what's the opposite of fear? I tell you, it is acceptance. And we fear, our greatest fear is not being accepted. So that's why we adopt, oh yeah, okay, well, I'll subscribe to your truth. Will you accept me? Will I fit in? Will I belong? Will I find connection? Well, to a degree, but if you want to find the true organic, powerful connection of your spirit and intuition, of your destiny and your power, then you need to put that childish way aside and step into that spiritual maturity of finding that truth within you. Okay. So I'm going to leave it there. Blessings, love, and light. Namaste. This is your homegirl, Moonlight Mystic. Cool. Another one done and dusted.